All right, let's do the last piece of Yortzeit Sium, and then later on I'll talk about it. It's actually, I looked at it today, it's interesting in many ways. The question of muktzah. It says the last Mishnah goes, "Mashkim shelters the midbarius, mashkim shelters the biases." Certain types of animals you can give them the drink and then shecht on yantiv, and certain ones not. The ones that are midbarius, the ones that are far away in the desert, it's not you're not expecting them around on yantiv. You may not do it. The ones who are biases, the ones that are more domesticated, hang around the house, that you may do so. The biasel on spear, midbarius on buffer. The ones that are in the old days would graze in the meadows of the town, they're the ones that you have in mind, they're not muktzah, and you could shecht them and mashke them, which is give them the drink before you shecht them. And the other ones, which are out in the alpha, far away, that, so if an animal that you never would expect to show up shows up, when you're not there, it's muktzah. So the Gemara goes, the whole business over here, let's get right to the point. Immediately the Rebbe muktzah, so who wrote the Mishnah? Nobody. So that means it's Rabbi Nasi. Right? It doesn't say any names. So, is it a Mishnah? So, does Riyah Nasi hold from Muktzah? This raises a very interesting question. There's a big machlokas. Yesh Muktzah, ain't Muktzah. And what does that mean? I know everybody looks like it's definitely Muktzah. Right? Shabbos, you mean there's somebody who holds that nothing's Muktzah? So, it's not so simple. I'll talk about it later. But it says, does Rebbe hold from Muktzah? Well, boy, Minei Shimon Rebbe, his son asked him, Rebbe's son asked him, what about Patzili tomorrow, Reb Shimon Mahu? There's a running debate all three shots of Shimon versus Rabbi Yehuda. Shimon says, Ein Muktzah. Rabbi Yehuda says, Yesh Muktzah. So, what do you have, Patzili tomorrow, which are funny kind of dates? They're a little too ripe, according to one opinion, a little unripe. In other words, they don't fit the regular pattern. Are they Muktzah or not? Amar Lo, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said to his son, Ein Muktzah of Shimon el Grogos and Smukim Bavad. Shimon's very lenient, and he takes the point of view that only things on the extreme would be considered Muktzah, but everything else wouldn't, and these don't fall into that category. So you see, though, that he was going like Rav Shimon. So why does our Mishnah say you can't shecht the animals that you weren't expecting for? No, it was all about Muktzah, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is talking to his son about the opinion of Rav Shimon, who says Ein Muktzah. So Gemara says, either maybe the animals we're talking about were so far away that they were in the extreme category that even Rav Shimon would agree that this is Muktzah. Maybe it was just explaining Rav Shimon's opinion, that doesn't mean Rabbi Yehuda Nasi himself held it. He was just speaking academically. Or it could be Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was speaking not his own opinion, but he was talking to those who didn't agree with him. No, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was saying that I don't hold from Muktzah, but even according to you guys who do, Ladidi ain't Muktzah, Ladidcho Lemiyas, at least agree with me that this type of animal that they're talking about in the Mishnah would not be in the Muktzah category, and and rabbis disagreed. In other words, they were talking about an application of Muktzah, even though they basically, neither one changed their opinion. So it could be, so what do we come up with this? Read on this, he does hold a Muktzah, or he doesn't hold a Muktzah. It's like a little, the Gemara ends, that's the last line of the Gemara. It ends like on an unclear note. Meanwhile, let's do this and then we'll eat something. Hadro Pesachos Beis V'Hadrocholon. Title Pesachos Beis V'Hadrocholon. Lo Nisnashim Nach Pesachos Beis V'Hadrocholon. Lo Balmadim Lo Amalasi Ritzum Oven Nechon Nefsino. Shetei Roschim Nesin B'Lo Hazev Tinimon Lo Haba Chanim Rom B'Pava Am B'Pava Rachim B'Pava Osu B'Pava Rom B'Pava Rachish B'Pava Sur B'Pava Adro B'Pava Dor B'Pava Rav Nan Nili Yisrael 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 Kol Anach Tzitzoyin Tzitzoyin Kol Yisrael Kol Yisrael Kol Yisrael Tzimach Mi'Ovid Chak Menim Tzitzacki Yom Hilihi Li B'Sam Chukeh L'Mal Livosh Olam Lo Eshkach B'Kodem Ki Bam Ki Yisrael B'Chaton Milam Neiv B'Kodem Milam 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 Salawet B'No F'Nechon Milam Milam Shesam Chalkinu Yes B'Yismej Lo Sam Chalkinu B'Yoshei Kol Shon Mashkim Hei Mashkim Anashkim David Hei Mashkim B'Dvar B'Tim Anashkim Anamei B'Hei Milam Milam Kamschar B'Hei B'Hei Kamschar Anrotzim Chayil Habab B'Hei Rotzim B'Ershach Nem Ratolim Toridim B'Ershach Anchi Dam V'Mir Lo Yos Yemei Ani Yom Tevach Yirutzim Of Nechon Milam Shein Zatanu Azatanu L'Chaim Sech Beitze Kein Tazrinu Haschum Sech Tes from Mechem Sam Lum Alshmul Also Kam Kol Misol Sabiyab Sus Khatonim Amram Tamir Khachami Amod Vanu Zarinu Shel Tamish Ator Nipinu Zarinu Zarinu I'm have to be Adam. He's kind bonum v'salecha tankos abishalcha tishmar lecha. He says yisikecha could be mecha be yisiv l'shel stam or could be miri l'osha small l'shel l'kover l'yisem l'kein v'ertzam. Shalom. Yiskadav yiskadav shmei rabba. Amen. The asi l'schavet v'yalma l'asayim Messiah l'mifrek chaya medikat yushel l'shachal l'cheichol l'shel l'meker b'kon l'chram in Arab l'sab l'chon l'shmayel l'asrei b'zibi b'yichudi. Amen. Let's all go wash. Let's say if you lead the way. A number of people over here, obviously, are and that's nice. That's the old Baltimore. All that is gone. Forget it. All that is gone. This is a new city. Let me. I'm gonna tell you a joke from the Dovid Yehuda. But what passes for a joke for Dovid Yehuda is a Gan Columbus. I promise. He says at the end of the Tzlach in Besa, he just had the whole cover and it won't take long. I read you the Gemara about the last piece, and they asked the question about whether or not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who's the editor of the Mishnah, holds from Muktzah or doesn't hold from Muktzah. Muktzah is very confusing, and most people don't understand because it's confusing. It's not written in any one place. The best person that I know of on the subject of Muktzah is Darach HaShulchan. When he's hot, he's hot. And he's very hot. He really is. On Muktzah, you have to know the complexity of it to appreciate what I mean. In Shin Ches, in Hilchos Shabbos, where the Shulchan starts talking about it, he has a wonderful, in the middle of it all, it's kind of technical, but if you're interested, it's very wonderful over there. And I'll just share with you this very briefly. He says, what is, like I said before, nothing is Muktzah. This one holds Muktzah, doesn't hold Muktzah. What's that all about? Everybody holds something about Muktzah, right? That's Reform Judaism, right? So maybe some people remember from history how Ezra and Nehemiah, they declared everything Muktzah, remember, except for three things. Rav Shimon doesn't hold from any of that. So he says like this: "But Dovid Yedu shebachol Masechta Shabbos." Every few pages, it's like a major Shas thing. That's one of the arguments of the historians that Shimon Yochai is not the one who wrote the Zohar, because the Zohar is always Machmer, and in the Gemara, actually, Shimon is always Mekel. 9 out of 10 times. You just take the trouble to look, you'll see he's Mekel. I'll give you an example. A Davar Shem B'Skaven, all of the things like that. So anyway, this is Machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda Oser, Rabbi Shimon Mater. The if Sekah Hilchos Rabbi Shimon, and we go like Rabbi Shimon, that ain't Muktzah. Well, what does that mean? Rova Poskim Gam Benola kind of like Rabbi Shimon. And in by Nola, most Poskim, he does like Rabbi Shimon. He gives all the sources. I'm not going to do it. Al Shorabenu Tam, Hayim Mechalak Lom Rashein Alach Rabbi Shimon El B'Muktzah, Al Nola Alach Rabbi Yehuda. But Rabbeinu Tam is the only one. Most people say that we follow Rabbi Shimon, period, across the board when it comes to Shabbos. Right? So there's ain't Muktzah b'Shabbos. So what does that mean? Right? Exactly. And so, being Tishal, keeping the Kamil Kurv Shimon, the Leslie Muktzah, Mahuzah Dini Muktzah Shasur. Right? And what is also? We have Muktzah books. I thought we go like Rav Shimon. Vatshuva al zeh, Devade Gam Rav Shimon mode Beharbe Muktzahs. So when we say Rav Shimon doesn't hold Muktzah, we mean he doesn't have as extensive, right, covering of things as Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds a lot of things in Muktzah, and Rabbi Shimon only holds some things in Muktzah. That's what we mean by Ein Muktzah. But everybody holds his things in the Muktzah. And he goes on to say, Kama Muktzah Balachayim, Muktzah the Grogers at Smuchim, Muktzah Machlis Chesar and Kiz. I just highlighted the main point. Davar Machtaliso, Tatum Lekon. You can move L'Tzerach Makom, but you can't move it Mecham L'Tzel. Many are familiar with that rule, right? You can't move it that. That Rabbi Shimon holds of. In other words, all these things are in Shas, it'll say, and Rabbi Shimon holds of this too. Or Rashi or Tosas will say, Rabbi Shimon holds from this. So there are, obviously, a fair number of things that Rabbi Shimon also holds in a Rasser. Davar Hamasriya, something that smells. Chain Davar Shein Taurus Kliolov, like Tzuros or Afar, what we call Muktzah Matzu. So Rabbi Shimon holds of Muktzah. So what does it mean when we say across the board, So Mahu zeh muksa shenechel k'ur b'yud Rav Shimon. So then what is the debate about? V'aloch Rav Shimon zel b'davar sharoi l'tashmish atah. It's something that is a kli. You can use it now. Al sheish lo muksa b'pol b'shem. It has certain qualities to it. For example, muksa machmas mius, muksa machmas otzar, davar mlachta le'isur l'asas b'lokas heter. These are areas in which Rav Shimon is makel. Okay? He's on the whole from muksa machmas otzar, things you just put away in the pantry in and of itself. Does that make it muksa? That's stringent. Rabbi Yehuda is very stringent. It goes across the board. He holds that way. Okay? If it's a helson to Rav Shimon, the davar shemlach le'isur muksa tzarach u'tzarach makamo. Or muchal l'adam hami muchal klavim, right? There's a famous question if something is not muktzah for a person, what about for the dogs? And the Reb Shimon is muktzah. In other words, he actually goes down the line, as I say before, it's quite a masterpiece. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work to tie it together all over the place to find out what are the cases Reb Shimon is machmer and what are the cases that he's mentioned that we follow generally Reb Shimon. Now that's muktzah ben hashmoshes. So that's in general. So when the words come, you hold muktzah, you don't hold the muktzah. Now there's one more very important qualification. And that is that in the Shulchan Aruch says that when it comes to Yontif, we're stricter. Okay, there's things. There's the Mechaber Ramon in Tal Tzadi Hey in Hilchos Yontif, right? The Muksa Afal. This is the Mechaber talking. Muksa Afal Hisha Mutter B'Shabbos Hechmir B'Yontif Asruhu. Okay, and the even in Shabbos those are makel, but in Shabbos and the Mishnah Berurah explains Pirish. The le'il misbar di'ish kami muktzah mutar b'Shabbos, like muktzah omid l'schara, echnis l'otzer, and da'at l'stabing men, or muktzah ma'asmiyas, v'od kam b'gavdi, that there are a certain number of things that Rav Shimon is meko on, ach kol zeh kil dafke b'Shabbos, right, and not on Yontif. And the Gemara here, in the beginning of the Masechta, I actually do the Masechta backwards. That's what I have a Polish approach. I do the last parak, and then I do the parak before it, I do the parak before it. I find it works better for me, the wrong way, but the fact is that so in other words, the last Gemara I did was the first Gemara in Beitza. It happens to be, I remember it. So they're talking over there just what I'm talking. What he's saying over here that by Shabbos, since people treat Shabbos so machmer anyway, so we don't have to legislate extra stringently on them. But Yontif, the Asi Zuli Bay, right? So therefore, we have to actually extend it farther. It's not crazy, but it becomes out funny that some things are, more muktzah on Yontif or not. The typical example, the muktzah book over here is Nolad. You understand? Something is brand new. There's what they call Nolad Gomer and just Nolad. Right? So Nolad Gomer, something that mamish didn't exist before Shabbos. Everybody agrees is also across the board on Shabbos. But Nolad is mutter on Shabbos. A lot of people don't know this, but it's also in Yontif. Here, to give you an example. Common examples of these sorts of things. You look at yourself. It's in chapter 12 or 13. Here's ordinary Nolad. Milk freshly milked in Yontif. Eggs laid on Yontif. Bones on Yontif. Bones and pits removed from Yontif. Items made by going Yontif. Animal carcasses, animal skins, lumber, broken beams, broken utensils. It goes through all these sorts of things. There are cases where they kind of existed, but they changed form on Yontif. So they weren't like brand new born. And even an egg, I'm sure everybody remembers the egg was born today, but it was prepared yesterday, like a Chanukah Rabbah. So there are differences when it comes to, Shabbos versus Yontif in this particular regard. So that's what we mean when we say, all this is to tell you the joke. I promise you. I promise you. Right? Now,
if you have to explain it, then it's no joke.
No. What it means is like this. This is what they call the joke for the Dovid Yehuda. Derech halotz, as he says, derech b'dichusa. In the beginning of the Gemara, again, we all remember from high school, from yeshiva, sometime around, I'm sure. Beis Yishanol b'yontif, Beis Shammai says you can't eat, Beis Hillel says you can't eat it, right? No, I said the other way around. Beis Shammai says you can't eat, Beis Hillel says you can't. That's important because in the first, the Gemara, goes through several pages trying to figure out is it this kind of egg and that kind of egg and all that sort of thing, right? And one of the things it starts at is b'mayas kinin. If you're talking about tiny goes on medicine lachila, so then it's a regular shekel you were planning to eat. Why can't you shechter the yontif if you want to? And the egg is part of a chodever, the egg too. And if it's a tiny goes on medicine legadol beitzim, if you were preparing a chicken that you had in mind that you're not going to use the yontif but steer strictly for breeding, then the same thing should apply to one of those kind of questions. And my tamid beis Shammai muksahi, right? Why would Beis Shammai say it's okay? Then obviously it's muktzah in the sense that you had off your mind. It's omedes lagal beitzim. It's an animal that you had intention before Yontiv strictly for breeding. You were not going to use it for food. So you were matzah meidas. You really made it muktzah. So why would Beis Shammai go to do so? And Gemara says, "Don't make Beis Shammai less than muktzah," like we're talking about before, right? And it goes back and forth and all this sort of thing. And then it has Rav Nachman. That's the first daf over here in daf Beis. And what does Rav Nachman say? It's very interesting. He says, Rav Nachman, Lolam Tarnigoso Lagalo Beitzim. He's talking about something you were matzimidas, you were going to do for breeding. You were not going to keep it in mind. Disli Muksa, Disli Nolad, Lesli Muksa, Lesli Nolad, Beis Shammai Reb Shimon, Beis Hillel Reb Yehuda. Right? The Beis Shammai in the Mishnah is recorded as following the policy of Reb Shimon, and whereas Beis Hillel, which is the lenient position, Beis Hillel would be the other way around. Now, the Gemara says, is that possibly true? Back and forth. And like I told you before, then Rav Nachman says something very interesting from the historical perspective. He says, Nasi, when he put the Mishnah together, not only did he have exact records, right? There's an editing process involved. Rav Nachman, Gabi Shabbos, the Sosum Lotanik Reb Shimon. When it comes to Shabbos as opposed to Yontif, we have recorded other Mishnahs where the halacha follows Reb Shimon. In other words, the more lenient position. Mukim Lola Beis Hillel Reb Shimon. So Nasi said like this: if it's Shabbos, so the governing opinion must be the lenient one. I know there's a machlokas Beis Shammai and Hillel over this question over there. I'm sure Beis Hillel always said the right thing, so we'll record Beis Hillel as being in accordance with the right opinion. Not that he actually knew it. Avol Gabi Yontif the Sasum Tanik Reb Yehuda, but when it comes to Yontif, and they quote a Mishnah over there later in Beis Hillel where there's it's on record that the halacha is more stringent, as we said before. So then, Mukim Lola Beis Hillel Reb Yehuda. You understand? In other words, then he said like this: if there's some debate between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, we'll put Beis Hillel on the winning side because we always follow Beis Hillel. You see? So it's funny. It's not like they had an unbroken chain that this one said that this is what Nachman says in black and white in the Gemara over here. It's kind of funny over there. And the reason is, like we said before, because Shabbos you have to be more stringent, and the other ones you have to be less stringent. So how does it all have to do with the joke? It goes like this.
Shabbos you have to be less stringent.
What's that?
It says Shabbos you have to be less
Whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
We're taught this, we follow this.
Okay, so let's get to a
Okay.
priest. A priest, a rabbi, and a minister walking over.
Yeah, exactly. So so I see at the end of Beis the Rebbe Yehuda, the Slach, says like this. He says, one more piece. There's a Gemara later on that says, very, very briefly. The Gemara says like this.
We're going to miss the joke.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't get the joke is an Amaret, so we have to laugh.
Wait a minute. Listen to this. On Davav, the Gemara has the following thing. I'm Rabbi Yonah Beitza im yitziyasa nigmara. That's that expression. Beitza im yitziyasa. An egg is completed with its exit. Beitza im yitziyasa nigmara. So Gemara says, what does that mean? Mine says nigmara. So Gemara goes up and down and back and forth, and finally at the end it says that it's telling you science. Im yitziyasa nigmara megadel sefruchim b'mei men megadel sefruchim. If the egg it departs from the mother before the mother shechted, then it can eventually possibly produce a child, be fertile. But if you shechted the mother, found the egg inside, meaning the egg is complete, it will never be able to produce a child. I got no problem with that, right? So that's the end of that. Beitza im yitziyasa nigmara means that an egg reaches its completion, I guess biologically, whatever you want to call it, with the yitziyah. Okay. Now the joke is like this. Right? You see where it's going?
I see the punchline, but
Yeah. Beitza.
Yeah.
Right? Beitza im yitziyasa nigmara. Oh, when you get to the end, then the issue is settled. What was the issue settled? You saw from a Nachman that we're not sure, right, which way Beis Shammai goes, Beis Hillel goes, what does Rebbe hold?
Right.
You understand? What does he hold? It was all speculative. Get it? Is it going to be one way or the other way? Well, there's one way to find out. Look at the very end. And the Dovid Yehuda, this is very typical of that kind of lumdus. He says, and again, I see many people have done Beitza, so they may recall, the last Mishnah in the Masechta is different than the other Mishnahs in that parak. Do you remember the Mishnahs talk about Matapchim, Mesapchim, Merachdim, you can't dance, and Exer Mishum Shvus, and all kinds of, it's not about muktzah. And then for some reason or another, right, it's about tchum, right, eros and things like that. And for some reason, he said, the Tzlach says, when it comes to the last Mishnah, all of a sudden it starts talking about muktzah, right? Get it? So why is he talking about muktzah? Because as the Gemara says over there, the Gemara raises the question: did Rabbi Yehuda Nasi hold from muktzah, Rabbi? Like I read you before, did he not hold from it? Okay, and what does it come out in the end? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, in fact, point of fact, does not. Correct? He does not hold from muktzah. That's why he had to say, according to you, I'm explaining it, or according to this or the other. Right? So therefore, when we have the question in the beginning, what does it mean? Beis Shnol V'Yontav. Beis Shammai says Te'ochel, and Beis Hill, I said it wrong. Beis Shammai said, Beis Shammai says Te'ochel. Beis Hill's Lo Te'ochel, and the Gemara was speculating, like, which one is it coming out with? How do you know what Rabbi Yehuda Nasi himself says? Basic Im Yitziyasa Dingbra. When you get to the end, with the Yitzi, when you leave the Masechta, then you settle the question because you see at the end which way Rabbi Yehuda Nasi lives. Now you can live. Right? That was considered a joke. I'll just read you. It's a very short piece.
That's a real wowzer.
Keep your day job.
Well, look, he says how he is. The derech Hashem should safni v'adik Rabbi Yehuda. I mean, the derech b'dichusa. Beisim siyasa dingbra. L'ram is basis hamishnah rishon b'septes basis no beis hamriyamim lo teyochel. Sheyish mokum shnishus b'tos. Like we said before, how does Rabbi Nachman know which way it went? It's not clear. Hari in lonel Beis Shammai ki Rabbi Yehuda Beis Hill ki Rabbi Shimon. On the imi yitziyasa shel masechtes nigbra shari kan sosam lon Rabbi Yantav ki Rabbi Yehuda. So and he goes on a little bit more about that. The reason is I mentioned this for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a cute line, and I was going to do something else, but it is. I don't want to make it last too long. It's interesting with double shation my term, but let's say it for another occasion. But that was the old. This is the old. I know it's funny to us, like, but on the other hand, but you hear the part. My father was born in 1900. At that time, in that culture where he lived in Minsk and other places, this is what they did for fun. Okay.
Yeah, well, I could hear Rabbi Bach laughing at that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I had one about,
It's the answer to a riddle that starts out as flesh and turns out to be carved.
They had a few that were
I once heard
off-color,
Rabbi Bach tell a joke.
uh-huh.
He was saying that
But there was a kind of a brand of Yiddish
something
humor.
was
You had to
Ksuba.
be a Kurds and a
I know what you want to say. You want to make that something.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
I know that.
So he said he signed it way down by the bottom, very far away from the Ksuba. Said Midvar Sheker Tircha.
No, it wasn't.
He said that one too.
Okay.
he also said something about.
You wrote a lady. She wrote a thing.
He's a Mukha
That's right, yes.
You know, other mates. That's what.
I thought that's what we're, are you still recording this? You don't want to get that one.
That's
That's like
okay.
the jokes they used to tell in the olden days.
What's that? It is, well, in certain circles, that's what they consider most of the Yichud.
He said, Rabbi said, well, something that he was at the barber. So he wanted to know if he wanted to trim his beard. He said, I'll take you all more.
What's that?
Said, I'll take you all more.
Very good.
Let me take away from you.